Hello and welcome to The Reset, a mental health podcast without all the bollocks. I'm Sam Delaney. My guest this week is the chef Tom Kerridge. Tom grew up on a council estate in Gloucestershire and worked his way up through the restaurant business to eventually open the Hand and Flowers in Marlow, Buckinghamshire, which became the first and remains the only pub in the world to be awarded 2 Michelin stars. Tom has subsequently built an entire restaurant empire and become one of the most familiar faces on British TV, with a series of best-selling books to his name. I spoke to him last month while he was launching his latest book, Tom Kerridge Cooks Britain, which you can find a link to in the show notes. We talked about the mental pressures of working in a busy kitchen, why he chose to quit drinking alcohol when he turned 40, and his continuing love of a bit of chaos. As you'll know, Tom is a charismatic bloke and very entertaining company. He also has so much brilliant advice about how to get sober and sane without losing your edge or your sense of fun. I hope you enjoy listening to our chat. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
It's a real pleasure, mate. Congrats on yet another fantastic book, Tom Kerridge Cooks Britain, a journey through the best of British food. I know you've spoken before about like how good cooking at home can be for mental health. Was that always the case with you when you were younger and you were just a home cook? Was it a therapeutic thing?
No, it was because I was hungry. No, I grew up in a single parent family, so it was back in the day. It was known as latchkey kids. So it was myself and my younger brother, and I would come in and I would cook tea for the two of us. But that would be fish finger sandwich, it might be crispy pancakes, it might be potato waffles under the grill, or you know, like it was just standard, just like 1980s convenience food. But there was always a sense of having achieved something. I think if you're a young teenage kid and you do it for yourself for the first time, like 13, 14 years old, and you've got that responsibility of cooking for your younger brother, and you do. Like there is a sense of responsibility that comes with that, and a sense of achievement. It wasn't the thing that put me into a kitchen, and it wasn't the thing that I didn't see it as this is good for my mental health, but I did see it as a sense of accomplishment, which was probably more than I was achieving at school.
Yeah. What was life like in Gloucester growing up? Yeah, like you say, you're single parent family. That was the same for me. I think, you know, I often think that sort of made school tougher because it was hard to be kind of relaxed and organised because life tends to be a bit more chaotic. Did that affect your school career?
Well, not really. Well, I think as I've grown up and met loads more different people, you kind of realise that it's not always the same, but actually it was fairly relatively normal compared to everybody else I went to school with. Like there was lots of broken families, and there were lots of people whose mum and dads might have been on shift work, or it might have been on, you know, it wasn't too dissimilar, or people that had step brothers and sisters, and like it was fairly normal. So it wasn't too dissimilar. I didn't feel that we were different to anybody else. It's only, I think, as then you grow up, I think in later life, and realise that maybe there was more, I suppose, that almost standard structure of life where people like, you know, mum, dad, 2 kids, dog, estate car, you know, that kind of like that didn't exist in my world as a child. And you kind of, and they're also, this is an age before the internet, so you don't really see as much of the world of what's going on. You know, YouTube didn't exist, you know. It's kind of like, so I was just our little world that we lived in, but it was, you know, it was good fun. I loved it. We didn't feel that we missed out on anything. I just didn't really, I didn't recognize, I don't think till now as being a dad, that effect of not really having a father figure is much of a, because it's now that that I'm a father, I realise that I'm making it up as I go along, the same as he's learning as a young son. We're learning together, which makes it quite good fun. But I've got nothing really to draw upon. I've only got examples from the telly.
Yeah, you got Homer Simpson, Darth Vader. I always say that's if you grew up single in a single parent family, there's 2 main influences. I mean,
yeah, that's it.
You know, obviously you've been well documented that you you struggled with drink and your lifestyle when in your earlier years. How much do you think that's connected to like a sense of like other mental health issues like anxiety? How much do you think it was to do with anxiety, or was it a love of chaos, or what was it? And what, I'm thinking about what the sort of stuff you communicate to your son now, and how you kind of stave off similar things with him. How
Yeah.
do you think drink linked to your childhood?
Well, it wasn't. I mean, for me, it wasn't. I've always been really comfortable around people. I'm not. I'm very fortunate that I haven't at any point in my life suffered from like any form of anxiety or depression, or we all go through bumpy times at work or at home or whatever else. But I've been very lucky that I've not felt in that space. I've always been quite mentally upbeat, and I'm always very comfortable. I've always been comfortable around people. Like I like being with people. I like the energy that you can feed off people. I'm not intimidated by. I've never been intimidated by class or by having to have conversations with people or not feeling that I belong. Like it's not like I don't. I've always been quite comfortable in my own skin, but I think the alcohol and the booze came from a sense of uh, first. My dad drank a lot. My dad was a drinker. As it turns out, I don't really recall too much of it as a kid, but it must have been that part of his life that I kind of was there. But also, it was an escape route for me from the pressures of work. Like you work in kitchens, like there's a lot of people that work in hospitality that live life outside of the norm, they're kind of extrovert or even more introvert style people that are really comfortable in a world full of chaos, in a world full of not confirmation. Like there's a whole world of structure that happens around Michelin star restaurants and the way that places operate. You have lunch and dinner and you have particular dishes and you cook in a particular way and it's exactly like this, and you put things back in the same place and you have to have cleanliness and you have to have lots of red tape. However, everything else that's around it is chaos, and the people that are in it quite react well to chaos and operate under adrenaline fueled, chaotic, left field way of life, and it's really good. Like, so it's a great place to be. But then when you put added pressure of, I suppose, owning that business and driving yourself and pushing yourself, you need a release valve. And there's a lot of people whose release valve, in hospitality, you go out and party late at night, you finish at 11 o'clock, and then you go to the bars and then you go on a party night until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you get up again at 6 and go back to work. You need a release from that kind of hard work, adrenaline fueled, excessive kind of excitement that your body might be having during work, because it's great. It's a brilliant environment, but it is driven. It's not a soft day at the office. It's, you get on with stuff, you're proactive and you're active about stuff. So you need that release. And that release for me came with boozing, but also finding the chaos in booze. I loved it. I love the party times. I loved everything about it. I love living in that chaotic world. It was amazing. Like I know now I can't do it. It's not good. It's not good for me, my health, my like physical being. So you go, okay, I've got to terms with it. I'm glad I've done it. It's weird because I get asked about it quite a lot. And in all honesty, I don't regret it for a minute, because there's lots of people that I think recover and talk about, drink and alcohol and how it's a big thing in their life and how it still sits there and it's this thing on their shoulder, and it does. But at the same point, I'm pleased I've done it. Like, I'm glad it's been a part of my life, because if it wasn't part of my life, I don't think we'd have got to where we've got in terms of a business and people, because the more I could push myself, the larger the escape of chaos, the more I push myself. So that drive, it was like this perpetual motion of chaotic mayhem, moving this great big ball of, I suppose, of a business forward with a load of people behind us, that we were all in this world. But then it does get to a breaking point, I think, physically and mentally, but you get to levels because you are pushing and driving. So I don't regret it for a single minute. I'm a little bit disappointed with myself that I can't now enjoy a glass of wine with a posh dinner or a beer on a beach somewhere on holiday. But it's part and parcel. It's yin and yang of life, innit? You take, I've done it. I did it properly. I got proper stuck in. Enjoyed every minute of it. Now I can't do it anymore.
Someone said to me once, you just think of it this way: you're born with a certain amount of drinking tokens. Some people spread them out evenly through their life. Some of us just binge them all in the first sort of 30 years or something like that. And then you think, well, I've used them all up. I've done it all. I don't have to wonder anymore.
That's exactly it. That's how I look at it as well. I go, I've done
Yeah.
my share, but I've done it. And anyone who talks about being a drinker now, you're amateur. Like it's nothing compared. Like it was that, like I've done it. I did all my tokens. Like I've done them.
Yeah.
Went quite early.
Yeah. So you never have that sort of, I wonder if I missed out on any fun, because you know you didn't. You've done all the fun.
No, all the fun we condensed into one massive explosion. That was brilliant. Now we have to just live with the consequence.
So when you say like you don't think you would have been able to do it without that sort of level of release, how do you think about, like, say if you had to do it all over again tomorrow, but where you are now in your life, how would you be able to still do it but with a different approach?
No, I think the thing is, age. The thing about cooking and being a chef is it is very physical. It's very, it is. I mean, you go into kitchens and it's a young team of people that are there from early doors in the morning, putting the veg away. It's the physicality of being a cook at a top level is massive, and that energy level that's required to do it, to start it all over again now is 50, as opposed to opening a business when I was 31. It's very, very, very different, and then going into a kitchen as an 18-year-old, you run around, you live that life. Now it's much more about controlling the rhythm of what's going on, understanding, helping, watching the guys enjoy going through the same processes that I went through when I was their age, enjoying every minute of it, working really hard, playing really hard. But you definitely wouldn't be able to cope with the physicalities of starting, and particularly starting a new business as a 50-year-old. I just not to get to the level that we did. We opened within the first 10 months, we won a Michelin star, and then 6 years later we won the second star. And that process, that drive over that 6 years to get to that point was massive. And then once that happens, then all of a sudden the world, it gets even busier, and then it suddenly becomes, how do you, the maintenance of that? There's no way that if I started now, I wouldn't even get to this point where I'm at now till I'm 70. That's a no-go. I don't want to be doing that when I'm 70. I'd like to be sat on a beach in Barbados sipping, I don't know, non-alcoholic pina colada whilst going for a swim with the turtles.
Yeah. So controlled chaos was basically part of your method, really, your approach.
Yeah.
And do you think that's like prevalent throughout your whole industry for people who make it to the top like you?
Yeah, it is massively, to a point. And I think there's a lot of it comes with, I suppose, slightly neurological thinking differences. If you're ADHD or on a spectrum, whereas a lot of people that don't necessarily conform at school or don't pay attention, you're not stupid. It's just not this dull, rhythmic, doesn't always fit. Actually, you go into kitchens and you go into, if you look, musicians, sports people, chefs, there's a lot of people, creativity, artists, there's a lot of people who work incredibly hard, who are driven, but don't necessarily have done very well at school. But that's not because that's not their fault. That's a schooling system that wants a system to conform to, for you to get a tick box that makes you clever. Well, that's not right. That the world doesn't operate like that. It's a much bigger thing. And then if you think, when you get into hospitality, some of the best chefs, some of the best people that operate in it are most definitely on the spectrum, because you have 12 different things going on in a kitchen, all exactly at the same time. And I don't just mean about the cooking. I also mean on an emotional level. You have a guest that is upset about a dish, or you have someone that's come into a kitchen. You've got a delivery man that's late. You've got a chef that's burnt themselves, and you've got a pan that's over there that's got too hot. You've got as well as you're trying to do there's so much chaos that goes on. But if you can find calm and solace in that, then actually it works really, really well. And if you flip it the other way, that if you sit down in a school and it's all about just sitting still and listening and learning, that's not calm and solace. You need chaos for it to feel like you're in a world where you're kind of in control and you feel comfortable in. And kitchens and hospitality environments create those spaces. They naturally are those spaces for people who want to live or have those kind of neurological thought patterns.
At the age you're at now, how do you achieve balance? Because obviously you're very driven and you're very busy and you still have ambitions, clearly. But it seems to me, listening about, your younger days, that you just were an all or nothing. It's very common in addicts. You like threw yourself at your work, and that's how you got to where you were going. Now you're a dad. You clearly have more balance in your life. But how difficult is it to maintain that balance? How disciplined do you have to be?
Yeah, really, really hard. But you also surround yourself by amazing people. I've been very fortunate over the last 19 years of running a business and being in that space that, I've built around us, and we all work very closely together. An amazing team of brilliant, brilliant people that, from general managers and head chefs and restaurant managers and sommeliers and barmen and people that have just been with us for decades, that have grown, and we all grow together. And then behind the scenes, you've got executive chefs, and I've got a brilliant assistant who's been with me for like 14 years, who helps structure and run my daily life of knowing where I am, where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And into that, there's we have to get, some downtime gym sessions, at least 3 or 4 a week. I'll go every day if I can. And then also Sundays, we try and keep free, that I can spend it as family time, trying to find that balance. It's very difficult. I like the fact that there isn't balance. I love the world of chaos with it. I love being in the extremes of it. I'm quite fortunate that my son is pretty much exactly the same human being, except he's got much more hair and is smaller. Yeah, but only just. Do you know what I mean? I'm very, he lives slightly, he enjoys the chaos, he enjoys the extremes of stuff. He's a busy human, and he likes that. And, I get on very well with that, which means that, Sundays are filled with great fun stuff. And he also understands if I'm not around, we get,
Right.
I miss it. He misses me. But then you go, right, well, when we're off, let's go do something mental. Let's go and and it's great. We have loads and loads of fun. So there isn't a maintenance, like beige vanilla balance. There is like and it's really good fun. We're living a life.
But you have to keep an eye on yourself. You have to keep an eye on it, like, because you can drift. Presumably, someone like you, it must be easy to drift into extremes. I mean, obviously not with drink anymore, but with work or anything, you can drift too much one way or the other. Do you have to so like gym, for instance? I know you're very into like lifting and fitness now, but do you really have to sort of like be very sort of strict about carving that time out for yourself? Because if not, work could take over completely, or something else could.
Yeah, but I also realize that I need that time. Otherwise, work becomes I don't operate as well. It's not as efficient. I'm not as in it as much. I don't, I'm not as. I need that away escape to become. Otherwise, I become agitated, and that's not a good space to be, because that agitation suddenly, leads you to making daft decisions or doing stuff that is, I become. So I need that escape space. I'm also very fortunate. Beth, my lovely wife, does keep me very much in check. She doesn't work in chaos. She likes serenity. She likes calm. She's an artist, and she needs her world to be just so. Like time is an invention by man just to get in the way of Beth, just to piss us off. That's what time is. Time isn't real. It doesn't exist, which is pretty much true. However, we all conform to time. But in Beth's world, it's she needs that space. So she's very good at going, no, we're not doing that, or no, we're not doing. Why have we got 7 different things booked in to do on Sunday when I know we're going there, we're going rugby training, then we're going go-kart, and then we're doing this, then we're doing that, and then you're taking them swimming, and then you're doing that, and then it's like, look, just chill, stop. And then you go, okay. And maybe we'll drop 1 or 2 of those things out. So she's very good at a leveler.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, in your story, I know that, you've been together since the start of this whole journey, right? And you've been business partners and all the rest of it. And it strikes me that must have been very important, because it sounds to me like you sail pretty close to the wind with your lifestyle at times. I've just been reading the documentation of the amount that you used to just drink as a norm. And you must have sailed, whether you realised it or not, pretty close to the wind in terms of totally burning out, dropping dead, who knows what. How crucial to your survival and the fact that you're here today is the fact that you had someone you loved and who loved you next to your side, because you must see a lot of people like you in your industry who don't have that. Because actually, it's very hard to maintain a relationship when you're living that life and you're working the way you are and drinking the way you are, but you did it. Do you think that's a big factor in why you're still here?
Yeah, well, very much. But also, Beth also enjoys the party life. You know, she enjoys. You know, it's the biggest thing that she misses now is the chaos that we used to be in. She enjoys, but she was quite good at just going out and having a good time and not not going beyond.
Yeah,
like there was a point where Beth would go like enough's enough, you know. But she was she enjoys all of that and did enjoy all of that. But I think part of it is also getting older. Like as you just get older, you realize that certain things aren't as important anymore, and you got to start becoming a grown up, and you got to start taking responsibilities. And otherwise, life will pass you by. And there were points when I was approaching 40, and I just thought, I don't want to stay in this world where I'm at now. Like I'm loving every minute of it, but I can't progress being this person, and I don't want to. Like I want to keep moving. I want to keep trying to do stuff. And Beth's was very, very good at that. Going right, great. Let's and has been and is always, as always, supportive, like massively. And yeah, you do realise that I suppose long term, you think actually, there was no particular health issue, although I was incredibly unhealthy. There wasn't a dizzy spells or a collapse or a thing. There was just, I mean, everything was just full on. But you're right. It might have been weeks away from just going, that's it, giving up, everything's stopping now, because you're like over 30 stone, you're absolutely battered. And the only thing you're doing for recovery is eating bacon sandwiches and a packet of Nurofen in the morning. Like this is not, we're not stupid. I mean, it sounds like I was stupid. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was driving and loving every minute of it, and driving that business forward and just going, right, this is great. This is what we're achieving is massive. But there does come a point where you go, look, this can't be healthy and this can't be right. And you do realise that. There does come a point where you go, I've got to stop it. But just unfortunately, with a lot of people, you see that they don't. You see that they do continue on that journey, and it's not good for them. The end results are always the same, aren't they? The end results are always the same.
Well, I suppose some people, like you were functioning because you were successful. And that makes it harder because, the people in recovery, they call it the gift of desperation is better sometimes because you think,
I was also very
strict. So it was hard. I imagine it's harder when you're doing that well to find the reason to think, well, what's the problem here? I mean,
no, I know it was very obvious, like from just from looking at the position that you're in, from visually you could see that it wasn't in a great space. When you've got white and red blotchy skin and you're 30 stone, you can physically see that certain things ain't right. But you can also, I think, I was also very disciplined with my drinking. Like I didn't drink during the day. Like it was in the evening, and then it would be a huge amount from the last main course going to whenever I went to bed. But then I wouldn't drink in the day. It wasn't like I was functioning during the day. During the day, I was functioning to get to the end, pushing, graft during the day for the experience, for the relief at the end. And then every day it was that system. It wasn't staying as one continuous like drunk mode. It was up, down, up, down, up, down. I was very strict about that. Like no drinking at work. Like it was very, very strict about that. I was very strict about the amount of chaos that I would get into.
Controlled chaos, scheduled chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So many people who I speak to on this podcast or listeners say that the problem is I do think I need to stop drinking. I do need to address it, but in my career, in my industry, in the way I work, I can't. Right. That's one of the most common things. I'm sure you hear it from people. I mean, of course, your industry is actually very famous for being, for facilitating, let's say, or encouraging sort of hedonism. And we know that about hospitality and so on. But what is your advice to people who think I'm trapped in this because it's the culture of my work? People tell themselves that a lot. How do you achieve that balance? Because they think I'm going to have to sacrifice my career in some way.
But that's absolutely 100% not true. Like, and it doesn't matter what they're using that as an excuse to not do it, because, in my world, I live in and amongst booze and chaos, and I sell it. I'm a purveyor of, we got pubs that are all about sport, beer, burgers, steak. We are purveyors of good times, like I am in it. So you've got to be able to go, actually, this isn't what I do. This is what you can still be a part of that world hugely, and you can still be in it, but you don't use that as an excuse. And also, if you're talking to people and your colleagues and your friends and you say, no, I don't drink. That's it. I don't drink. And you tell, I don't drink because I've got a problem. But you disarm people with honesty. Like that's the biggest thing. And now I learned that from a couple of friends, a couple of quite famous friends that have had issues in their times with alcohol or drugs, and instead of being skirting around the subject, you front it, you own it, and disarm people with honesty. Because these people might just be binge drinkers that do it once a week or do whatever else, and then go, if you're on it and you're doing it every single day, and you've got an issue and you need to stop, then you tell them, you disarm them with honesty. You say, no, I am not drinking. I don't drink. I have a problem. What can they say to that? They're not going to go, fuck your problem, mate. Let's go get battered. The reality is, when you say, I have a problem with it, I have to control it, they go, okay, cool. Where are we going? You have to own it. You've just got to own it. You've just got to front it and own it. And then, also not drinking and saying that you have an issue with it, it's also like, you have to look at that. You have to convince yourself that's actually quite cool, because you've done it. You've been there. You've done it. Everything that they're talking about doing, you've done it. You're bored of it now. It's enough. Enough is enough. Like, I'm there. I'm on to something else now. That's it. Yeah. And you just, the first part is ownership.
Totally. And I've heard you say before, and I can really relate to it, like, people, you think when you first start telling people that they might give you shit, oh, come on, don't be boring or whatever. But when you say it very outright like that, the response you get is quite beautiful and surprising, because it's amazing. But something amazing that you said that I really relate to is, you said it sort of like filters your true friends. You find out who your true friends are. The very few, and in my case, it was hardly any, but the very few give you any shit at all, will they reveal themselves to not be good friends.
Exactly that. Two of my best friends, closest mates, big chef, drinking, mentalist buddies. The moment I said, that's it, I'm done, they were like, great, what do we need to do? Like, we went on a boys' holiday literally months after me stopping. Amazing. Like, it was a kind of a works, they were still drinking, but they were like, it was like, what can we do? How do we make this work? How do we, like, it was, and everybody else that was unhelpful or they don't actually matter. They're not really your mates. They're just people that you associate, or or your close friends are with you. They're on it. They're on the journey with you, and you then go, great, this is who I know. These are the people that I want to be with. These are the people that are helping me. So exactly. And if you've got people that don't help you, change your friends, because then they're not real friends.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't drink non-alcohol beer though, do you?
No, the association with it is exactly the same. I had an evening. I was probably 3 years into not drinking, and I went out. It was a Saturday, and I met Beth, my wife, and I said, let's pop into town. And we went in Marlow. I finished it. I just got out of the pub at at the restaurant about 9:30. Met her in town, a really busy bar in the middle of Marlow High Street, and I went in there, and Beth still drinks. She had a gin and tonic or whatever, and I went, do you know what? I might have one of those Beck's Blues, like a non-alcoholic beer. I thought, I'll have one of those. That's all right. I'm all right with that. Like, there's no booze. I'll have one of those. We're out. And the association of the opening the bottle, the smell, the taste. I'd done 8 of them in 20 minutes. I was back on it. I was on it, and it wasn't. It was all the association, all the culmination of the noise, the busy, the reaction, and it was actually quite frightening. It was one of those moments I like. Okay, this isn't. I am not in control of. I'm on it. I'm my brain and my insides are trying to get me battered on non-alcoholic booze.
Yeah,
like we're trying. Like it was not. I find it. That's probably the most uncomfortable space I've been for a long time, actually.
Wow. And so since then, you never touched any of that.
Yeah, I won't have anything that associates it. I won't have pretend beer. Like, it's just not. It's not because it's just the association, the thing, everything. It takes me into a completely different space, and that I just don't want to be in anymore. I can't be in it. It's quite frightening.
Yeah,
I always look back at it, and I do laugh at it. So since I was talking about those two mates, since I gave up drinking, in between that, one of those has had a heart attack and a triple heart bypass. Not from, well, he was obviously clearly unwell, but he's super fit. Like he's super fit, and that was a genetic thing. And then the other one has pretty much given up booze. And we laugh about, if we met us when we were out on that drinking, we would have hated us. I would have hated to have met me, and I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to meet me.
Yeah. And the other thing is that obviously you're still, you're smashing it in your career, and you're very, you're an upbeat, like you say, you're an upbeat, energetic guy. People imagine that they're going to lose their spark, don't they? That's like one of the main things. I think they're going to lose their humor, their fun, their spark. But clearly that's not affected you. I mean, do you feel that you're more energetic? You've got more spark because you're not hungover half the time.
Yeah, I do. I quite enjoy life. I quite enjoy being with people and doing stuff and saying yes to things and going on adventures and being a part of it. And I think and I do get that. I do get them when people, because alcohol makes you come out your shell, that Dutch courage thing and that sense of having good fun, and booze lends to something funny and chaotic and something, if you're kind of half in control and someone falls over and it's all a bit laughy and it's all, you're not in that world, as you're not in it. You might be there witnessing somebody else do it, but if it's got to the point where somebody else is falling over and everyone is laughing, actually you generally find yourself going, actually I'm uncomfortable with this, I don't really want to be here, my mates are dickheads, I'm going home. Do you know what I mean? And you go, I'll see you later. So it gets, there is a percentage point, and it's inevitable. There's probably 15% of you disappears that because you don't live in the same moment as everybody else. If they're drinking, you then start you're almost like, it's like you're looking from outwardly in to a group of friends. It starts off really well and it's all really good, and then as the evening builds on, you start going, okay, I'm not quite in the same zone as them. I'm either going to go home now, or I'm going to stay here and I'm just going to be the taxi person that gives them lifts home and hope they're not going to be sick in my car. Like, that's where you just get to that point. So there is a bit, and I get that bit. It's inevitable that you'll miss, but if you're not in control, if you're not in control of it, you've got to take responsibility. There's a point of sense of responsibility that you have to take, and that's inevitable.
Plus, you're a parent. What do you obviously devote a lot of time to your role as a father, and that might not have been possible either. If you were still drinking as heavily as you were.
Yeah.
But what do you tell your son? You say he's exactly like you, so he has those tendencies towards the extreme, towards chaos, which is a lot of fun. But what will you tell him as he gets older in terms of managing that in a different way to you, or will you just be like, roll with it?
Yeah, well, you tell him the truth, and you've got to grow up and you learn from it, and you learn in a particularly. And it doesn't matter how many times someone will tell you something. And it could be about anything, any form of a process of learning and education, whether it's prepping meat and fish, or whether it's something to do emotionally through life from, I don't know, relationships and girlfriends or whatever else, or through your relationship with alcohol, good times and addictions. They're part and parcel, that you can continue to talk to people about it. But until you are in it and live it, you don't really understand it. So I'm very conscious and very aware that he's very similar to me. I'm also very aware that it is something that perhaps without further study, you don't know, is there something genetically kind of in that mindset that he may well go down the same route. And then you go, well, if he does, there's somebody there that he can talk to about how to control it. And if he is the same as me, and we try to stay on top of it and help him and educate him. See, I wasn't educated in it. I didn't have an understanding of it. And it's a release, and mine was a release of pushing myself. So if he's pushing himself professionally in whatever else he's doing, and he's looking for a release that's coming out the other side the same as that, then, we're doing all right. Like, we're on book number 12. We've got a food festival. We've got 6 restaurants. I'm on top of it, and I'm out the other side, and I've learned a lot from it. So you go, well, it's not all bad. It's not all bad, but you need to be able to understand how to get out of it.
Just lastly, I always think that in recovery and sobriety, you need real passions, and you've always had that in various ways, but particularly with food. And I'm just reading in the intro to your book the way in which you write just about the love of ingredients and the understanding of where ingredients come from. And you're talking about like the way in which strawberries grow in Scotland, which educated me this morning, right?
Yeah.
About the way that they're going to taste sweeter because the days are longer, and the rush you get from that sort of thing. Is that like, your love of like ingredients and also the stories behind ingredients, so nature in a sense, is that, has that always played a big role in like in your mental health, in your sense of sort of like grounding and happiness and being able to take joy from those small things?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from, again, Mother Nature is chaos, right? It's controlled chaos. We have 4 definitive seasons, but food isn't manufactured. Okay, that's wrong. A lot of food is manufactured, and that's where we've got ourselves into a bad space. But real food is not manufactured. It's grown, it's fished, it's cared for, it's delivered with passionate people. So there's a human element, there's a human being touch across all of those points. Now, whether it's distilling spirits or brewing beer or making wine, or whether it's growing carrots or looking after cattle or fishing, all of those sort of things require a human touch, but they are all subject to the elements that the world and Mother Nature throws at them. All right, we know winter's going to be harsh. We know there's going to be rain. We know there's going to be frost, and we know that. But when it comes, or how it happens, or how long it goes for, they're all, you have to understand. You have to work with it. You have to have an understanding of what's going on and how to solve the problem. Is it going to be a good year? Is it going to be good yields? Is it going to be all of those sort of things? I think are collectively exciting. So you've got nature, you've got wind and rain and sun, and then you've got the ground and the soil and the different parts of the country. And then you wind that up with passionate people. They're all the ones that do the hard work that then delivers something into us in a kitchen that we can then try and serve to somebody that celebrates all of their hard work that they've put in. And I've always had that. I've always thoroughly enjoyed the process, the understanding from start to finish. And that's where I've been very, very lucky that connection with, I suppose, I'm not an outdoorsy person. Like I don't go loads of hill walking and foraging, and I'm not abseiling and climbing, or I'm not down the river in a canoe. But I like being outdoors. I like the sense of not quite knowing what's going on. I like, being around things that are happening. I don't like a controlled, sterile environment of an office. That for me is just like, it's the same every day with an air conditioning unit on and a screen. It's like, this is not, I want stuff to be changing. There's nothing better than being outside in the autumn and all the leaves have gone orange. And then you go, well, how's that affected farming? What's gone on now? So we've lost all of that. Right. What's being done to the fields? What's happening? What are we going to get? What's happening to the waters? Are they colder? Are they, what fish now is spawning? What's coming through? All of these sort of things that are connected that you have no control over, but you kind of get what's coming. And then I like the way that it all pieces every year and every season, sometimes every week, you have to piece together this little jigsaw puzzle to create a lovely dish. And I like that a lot. And that is the sort of thing that keeps you going every day, because never every day is the same.
That's beautifully put. You're an inspiration. You've been a great guest, Tom. Thank you so much for your time. It's wonderful hearing your story, and it's wonderful, as always, reading all your brilliant recipes. Cooks Britain, journey through the best of British food. The link will be in the show notes, so go out and buy it. It's fantastic. Tom Kerridge, thank you so much for being on The Reset.
Thank you very much, Chief. You take care.
Cheers, man. That was Tom Kerridge, Michelin-starred chef, restaurant mogul, TV star, and all-round good bloke. An inspiration to the sober curious everywhere. His new book, Tom Kerridge Cooks Britain, is really great, and you can find a link to buy it in the show notes. Thanks for listening, gang. Please remember to subscribe to The Reset at samdelaney.substack.com for over 100 more podcasts with interesting guests like Tom, plus a whole bunch of articles and other good stuff. Until next time, be lucky and don't let the dickheads get you down.